welcome to another Coach Dave Academy lap guide with myself, Kieran Harrison. This week we're in the BMW M4 GT3, as you can see, and we're at Spa for week 5 of the IMSA series within iRacing. So without further ado, let's just get straight into it. That was the full speed lap. We're now on the replay, just starting the lap, so I can run you through all the braking points and driving lines and things, just to try and give you as much of an idea as I can on how best to drive the track. So just approaching turn 1, I'm looking for the 100-meter board you can see on the left. I'm braking just before it, but from the driver's perspective, you're braking basically as the 100 board goes behind the left windscreen pillar. At exactly that moment is when you need to be braking. All the way down from 4th to 1st. And make sure as you start to turn in, you're trail braking. You can see me coming off the brake here as we go in slow motion. Just to help it turn, otherwise you're going to go straight. Try and take as much of this curb as you can. It just it helps to widen the corner, and then you can get a straighter exit, which is obviously important as you fire up, because it's a really flat out section, the next part. So you can see I'm already back on the power quite hard, but then just increasing it incrementally as we go towards the exit. The key thing is to stay out of the traction control, really. So only plant the power when you know that you're going to get the grip. We can use all of the curb there, as long as you keep your 2 right wheels on the red and white stuff. It's legal track limits wise. And as we approach Eau Rouge through here, the key is just trying to widen it as much as possible and use as little steering input as possible. It's easily flat in this car. So just use the left curb, the right curb, and then all of this on the exit. I just cut over that. Again, like I said previously, as long as you keep your inside wheels on the red and white curb, it's legal track limits wise. So it benefits you to cut it as much as possible, because then you're trimming down the angle of the corner. But then after the straight, again looking for the 100 board / this curb. I'm basically braking just as I'm arriving at the curb. You'll see here, just braking just before I get to the curb, and then use a little bit of it to widen the corner. Down to 3rd through here. I think you can use 2nd, but I was preferring 3rd. It just gives me better traction and stability through the corner. Use all of this inside curb. If you go slightly further than that, you will get an off track, so you've got to be careful. And then the same thing here, but note that it ends, and if you cut it too much, you end up hitting the grass there, and then that pushes the car wide. So you want to basically get up to that point where you just don't touch the grass. Getting back across the left as best we can. I don't like to touch this curb. I find that sometimes it seems to spin the car. I know some people can get away with it, but I prefer to avoid it. And then we're taking this inside curb as well, and then using all of the exit curb as well. Much like the track limits everywhere else on the track, it's as long as you keep 2 wheels on the red and white, it seems to be legal. And then heading down the hill now, I'm looking again at this curb. It's perfectly positioned for a brake reference, down from 4th to 2nd gear. And sort of turning in just after we start braking because it's a really long radius corner. Dip your wheels onto this curb because it can kind of help to pull the car around. You can see there's a little bit of a lip. You got to be a little bit careful doing that. I did have a couple of occasions where it sort of snapped the car around, but if you don't take it too much, just a little bit like I did there, then it seems to just pull the car around a little bit. And then we sort of run out, not all the way to the outside because we're conscious we've got to get back to the right for the following corner. Again, for this one, don't put your wheels on the green, but do use all of the red and white curb just to widen the next corner. And on this lap, I believe I cut this inside on this AstroTurfy bit, geo-blocky bit here. Yep, perfectly legal, no off track there. And the track limits on the exit are really generous. As long as you keep 2 wheels on this guttery bit, drain, it seems to be fine. So you definitely should be using as much of that as you can to try and maximize the width of the corner and carry more speed. Into this one, definitely put your wheels in this red and white curb to, again, widen the track. I don't really have a braking reference, but just you can see here, if I go in slow motion, the point that I'm braking, it's nearish this traffic light on the right, but that's not where I'm looking. But if that helps you, then by all means, go for it. And we want to, for this corner, we want to turn in late. You want to take quite a late apex and then pick up the power quite progressively but quickly. You've got enough downforce that if you do run wide, you can stay flat, and you'll have enough grip to make it round before the exit curb. But I think on this occasion, I managed to get back for the second apex, which is pretty optimal through here, because it just means you're not scrubbing. Like if you get wider than this, you can carry the speed, but you kind of scrub as you wash out. Whereas here, because I've got back to this second apex, I've got quite a little steering angle, so I'm able to maintain my speed on the exit and accelerate better. But then getting back across the left side, again looking at this curb, I'm braking just before it and then using some of it to set up the entry to the corner. And then for this right-hander, I believe I just touch it. You don't necessarily want to get all the way over it, but you can do it. There's no off-track there, so if you prefer to take that much curb, then by all means go for it. I just preferred to be more stable by staying off the bigger part. The second part, however, I do cut more. Just to try and, as I've been saying all throughout the lap, try and widen the circuit. And same with the track limits on the exit here. You can use all of the red and white curb without it being an off track, and I'm going to do exactly that just there. That's fine. So make sure you take advantage of that while you can. Then for this corner, we're approaching the left curb, again braking just before the curb and using it to widen the corner. I like to brake early and gently here just to keep the car stable, because you then want to get hard on the power, because then you're flat out all the way through until the bus stop chicane. So you can see I'm going to go flat here, using all of this as well, because it helps to allow the following corner to be flat if you use all of this. Make sure you turn in nice and late so you can have one turn in. You don't want to have to be adjusting too much mid-corner. You can see I'm adjusting a little to make sure I don't get too much curb. But I managed to maintain full throttle through here, and that's really the key, because you want to carry as much speed because you're flat through here for a long time. We get to Blanchimont shortly, and that's easily flat in this car as well. You just got to make sure you get the turn-in point right. So here, I don't really have a reference. You're just looking at the apex and you got to just try and get used to what you can see at the correct turn-in point. So I'm turning in now. You don't want to hit the curb too much because that really upsets the car and it can force you out wide. Equally, you don't want to turn in too late, but because of the downforce this car has, there's a little bit of room for error. If you miss the apex by the car width, you'll probably be all right. Because again, the track limit's quite generous on the exit. I don't get anywhere near it here. So staying to the right here and then fading across the left as the curb ends. Just looking at this white line across the track. Basically, just as the back of the car goes over it, there we go. We hit the brakes. Is this a really hard braking zone? Just down from 5th, we never get to 6th at this track in this car. But we're all the way down to first gear here, which I think think is probably only the second time on the track we do that. I'm turning in quite early, as you can see, and watch the brake trace. I'm fading off it to trail brake, taking just a little bit of the red sausage curb, and then back on the power, just a quick blast in the middle of the corner, and then braking again. For this second part, you don't really want to touch the red sausage curb, because it kind of upsets the rear, and at this point you need to get a good exit. And the key is, again, much like turn 1, you just got to not get into the traction control on the exit, so really be careful with the power until you're confident that it won't lose traction when you put it down, and that'll really help you to get a good exit, which, especially at the end of a good qualifying lap, is key. But yeah, that brings us to the end of the lap as we cross the line here. So there we have it. That was the full lap guide for the BMW GT3 around Spa as we head into week 5 of the IMSA series in iRacing. The key thing I would say to remember with this track and this car in particular, there's two things. The number one thing is always with this car, it's limited traction wise on the exits of slow corners. You've really got to be uber careful on the throttle application coming out of the slow corners just to try and stay off the traction control and maintain that traction. But with the track in particular within this sim, you've just got to try and use and abuse all the track limits it lets you get away with, because there's a lot of lap time in what you might think is track extending. So just make sure you experiment with them as you learn in the track. But that's it from me. So thanks for tuning in to the Coach Dave Academy Lap Guide. We do these every week for a variety of cars, and of course we release setups every week with a subscription. So if you need any more information, just check out the website or the Discord channel, and you'll find everything you need there. That's it from me for this one. So I will see you in the next one.